Hi, second graders. It's Mrs. Ward here. We are going to start our extreme weather reports this week. Each day, I'm going to have a new video explaining how to do each part. Today, you are going to research the locations of your severe weather that you were assigned. I'm going to give you an example and then you can go ahead and do it yourself. So I'm using the example of droughts since nobody else has that. I'm going to read a book about droughts out loud, and then I'm going to fill out the locations on the graphic organizer. You will have the same thing over here, and you will be filling it out. You can type in it, or if you have a printer, you can print it out and fill out the graphic organizer. If both of those don't work, just grab a piece of paper, divide it into 4 equal parts, and have the headings. And over here we have locations. So we're going to focus on locations today. I'm going to read a story called Disaster Zone Droughts. This is a type of extreme weather. We have our table of contents over here. The table of contents gives us more information about the text. Chapter 1. What is a drought? Imagine you are in Australia. The ground is cracked. Plants are dead. Dust blows in the air. Some people wear masks. It keeps the dust out of their lungs. There are tanks around houses to collect rainwater, but there's no water in them. It's a drought. A drought happens when there is too little rain for too long a time. Plants die. Rivers and lakes dry up. Sometimes the ground gets very hard. It cracks open. Did you know Australia's millennial drought was one of the worst in history for the southeast part of the country? It lasted from 1997 to 2009. That's 12 years. So right there, I noticed that Australia has been mentioned twice. So I'm going to type Australia in my graphic organizer. Droughts can cause famines, floods, and fires. A famine happens when people can't grow enough food. People starve to death. Droughts can cause floods. When a dry area finally gets rain, the ground is hard. The rain does not soak in. Wildfires happen during droughts. Dead trees catch fire. If it is windy, the fire spreads fast. Did you know? Helicopters fly in to help stop wildfires. They have special tanks that release water over fires. Chapter 2. Where and when. So this chapter will help me with locations because we have where. Droughts are hard to predict. Hydrologists study past and present droughts. What they learn helps them predict when and where a new drought will happen. Droughts happen all over the world, but places with a warm climate, high winds, and low rainfall are more likely to experience drought. So over here on locations, I'm going to write all over the world. I'm going to just skip a line there. All over the world. But then it said places with warm climate, high winds, and low rainfall are more likely to experience droughts. So I'm going to write that in my graphic organizer. All over the world, but places with a warm climate, high winds, and low rainfall. If you look at the map, where do they happen? Most of the areas where drought is common are in the southern hemisphere. Just make this a little bit bigger. Southern hemisphere. Okay, so now I have where. Chapter 3, Deadly Droughts. Between 1934 and 1937, there was a drought in the Great Plains. It was known as the Dust Bowl. The wind picked up the dirt from the fields and carried it high into the air. Large clouds of dirt blew through the country. They suffocated animals and made it hard for people to breathe. Ethiopia has a history of drought. For much of the 1980s, it did not rain. Crops dried up. Animals and people did not get enough food. About 1 million people starved to death. Did you know the Dust Bowl taught farmers that they had not been using the land correctly? Today, farmers give the soil time to rest between plantings. So right there, I'm going to type in some other places that I noticed to make this font a little bit smaller. All right. So we had Ethiopia. And then the page before it, we learned in the Great Plains. Great Plains. And I'm going to put in parentheses Dust Bowl because that seems pretty important since it's bold. A drought in the Great Plains, it was known as the Dust Bowl. It is up to us to take care of our water supply. Turn off the faucet when you brush your teeth. Take short showers. Use a bucket and sponge to wash a car, not a hose. Do not water your lawn. How else can you conserve water? And then there's a glossary and some activities and the index at the end. So what you are going to do now is read the books on EPIC. You can read one, you can read two, you could read all of them. You are going to look for the locations where your assigned weather would be found. So if you notice, as I was reading my text, I was typing in, or if you are writing, you can write it in your graphic organizer. After each day, we're going to do one different part of the graphic organizer, and we're going to use that information to write sentences. So today, just focus on locations.